In the season of 2024, the Houston Astros have underperformed in almost every area while being plagued by injuries. What does GM Dana Brown think the Astros need to do, and by what date do they need to get to 500?
Jainel Diaz, this is Locked On Astros.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Huysman and Brett Htown Wheelhouse Chancey.
Thank y'all for tuning in for a special edition of Locked On Astros. I break down the interview with Dana Brown on the Sean Salisbury show on Sports Talk 790. They meet with him every week. But let me tell you about our show where you can find us, and then we'll get into the conversation. You can find me at Htown Wheelhouse on X, Instagram, and TikTok. You can find me at Stros411 on Facebook and on X. You can also find me at Back to the Bullpen on X and on Instagram. Look, I'm always positive, always Stros. And I know this is a line that I've had to ride in, a mantra that I've chosen to take on since when I guess since I've been podcasting, and take that all the way back for me back to the 2018, 2019 season, where I just chose to let's look at this team in a positive light. And those roots come from my Facebook page, Stros411, which when I took it over was a very negative page. The previous person who was over it had banned people. And so I was like, how can I change the mode and the mood of our viewers and our readers? And so I just came up with the always positive, always Stros. But one of the things you'll learn about me, and if you haven't learned about me from watching or listening to our show, is that although I'm positive, I am not so unrealistic and so Homer-ish that I'm unwilling to see the obvious things. And I think more and more what's coming clear is what we see on the field in a game that, yes, we were without two of our biggest hitters. We are injury prone. We did face a rookie, but you went into last place Chicago and only scored 2 runs on 2 hits where they had 7. Where they scored 2 runs on 2 hits and you had 7 hits and couldn't deliver. So the fact that they faced a rookie doesn't really suffice my lack of understanding of how this club is not motivated or doesn't seem to have that urgency. Now, this is what I would encourage you to do. Go to Sports Talk 790, look for the Sean Salisbury show and listen to the interview in its entirety, as I am going to give you my take on bits and pieces of the interview. So in that, I do risk me possibly miscommunicating something that was said on the interview, but I will do my best to delineate the right information. So I'm telling you, as a listener, as a viewer, go back, listen to the whole context, and look, come back and make comments and let me know what you think. But Sean Salisbury does a really good job when he interviews Dana Brown because he shoots straight. He doesn't beat around the bush. He doesn't, he's not I don't want to use the word fanboy. He doesn't just co-sign everything. Like he legitimately questions things that are going on. And he does it in a very professional manner. One of the first things that I paid attention to was his talk about the sense of urgency. And he just said that the guys don't realize that it just takes a little bit going, but then he said he did. And he said right here, he said the veterans have to realize it only takes a spark to get a fire started. Now that's my summing up of about 2 sentences. The player's sense of urgency, and it's because of that urgency that they are pressing and not executing. So Sean Salisbury responds to Dana Brown. He says, but these are veterans. How are they not ready to respond? How are they not ultimately in the driver's seat when it comes to adversity or struggling or needing a sense of urgency? And Dana Brown said the sense of urgency is there, but we have to get on one of those rolls that I keep talking about. Dana Brown for the last 2 months is talking about once we get on a roll, once we win 7, 8, or 9 games, once we do that, once we get there, boom, we're going to be there. And the problem I have with the sense of urgency is, okay, then he says, because of the sense of urgency, the players are not executing. Why? Because they're pressing. Now, look, I'm not here to make excuses for Dana. And he doesn't look, he's a professional. He knows baseball way more than I do. He has way more experience than I'll probably ever have in my life in Major League Baseball. You can put a stamp on that with my age and his tenure in the major leagues. But I'm here to just question what is really going on. I do think part of this is you're the GM. You can't go on a radio show in June and say, yeah, we're done. We're not making the playoffs. I mean, let's be real, guys. I don't expect him to say that. But to me, it seems like there should be different responses to different questions answered. In the second segment, I'll get to the timeline that he gave. Okay. And I have a hard time believing that the players don't understand the urgency. While at the same time, Dana Brown said they understand the urgency, but that urgency is what's causing them to press. Do you see how those two messages don't jive? And Dana Brown isn't he's not an elusive press guy. In other words, he doesn't take he does beat around the bush a little bit, but even when he does that, he's to the point. Like, he's not making excuses. And I think what Dana Brown is trying to articulate, number one, is his frustration. I mean, you do have to take into account the injuries. The injuries 100% affect everything in this conversation. But we know that and understand that as Astros fans. We know that and understand that as a podcast. I mean, good Lord, how many guys do we have on the IL? It's ridiculous. Not just the league. I'm talking about our pitchers alone. We have like 6 guys out, 10 guys out. I mean, it's just absurd the amount of injuries we're dealing with. So you're already putting yourself behind the 8 ball. But even with that being said, there have been games that this team has been in, even with the lack of starting pitching. The bullpen has failed. The offense has failed. We've only won 3 or 4 games that were decided by 1 run. So right there, yeah, okay. So when, Dana, is the urgency going to get here? Better yet, Dana, how long are we going to let this thing keep going before we realistically look at guys like Alex Bregman, Framber Valdez? Do we trade them? Do we trade Jake Myers? Now, I'm not saying I'm on board with that. I'm just asking the question here. So while I think someone asked me, I was having a private conversation with someone through text, and a buddy of mine asked me, do you think Dana is panicking? And I'm like, he can't panic. He can't afford to panic. This is why fanatics don't run the team. This is why people like me, or people on X, or people on Instagram, people that comment on the team, radio hosts, that's why we don't run the team. But I believe that as a part of the Houston media apparatus, you want to call it, I think that we all try to make heads or tails of what's going on. And to me, what clearly is going on is the more the Astros prove where they are right now and not better, the more thought that Dana Brown and the front office is giving to, maybe this just isn't going to be the year. Maybe we not just miss the ALCS, maybe we miss the playoffs. And you would think that Dana Brown would be more focused on, okay, let's start working to the future. But it seems like he's really focused on what's going on now. So again, in our next segment, we'll talk about trade deadline. We'll talk about what is his deadline for this team to get to 500. This episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Millions of parts for your MVP. Win every time with parts that fit your ride. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered with over 122 million parts. For your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for every time, or your money back guaranteed. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need, or at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive with ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers. This episode is brought to you by PolicyGenius.com. Get peace of mind by finding the right life insurance. A lot of life is unpredictable, and it is good to have a life insurance plan that gives your family the financial safety net to make sure that you're protected against the unknowns. Policy Genius is the country's leading life insurance marketplace. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options are 100% online and let you avoid unnecessary medical exams. Now, Policy Genius helps you easily compare your options from America's top insurers in just a few clicks. They don't care which company you go with. They want you to get the one that's best for you and your family. So get peace of mind by finding the right life insurance policy with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com or click the link below in the description and get your free life insurance quote and see how much you can save at policygenius.com. Thank y'all for tuning in to Locked On Astros. We come to you every single day. You can check us out on Apple, Google, or Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. You can also check out Michael Connors on the Locked On Astros postcast after every game. And not only baseball season, football, basketball, anything in between with U of H, Michael's got you covered with Locked On Houston Sports all year round. Also, we want you to go to SiriusXM, check out the Astros games, listen to Sparky and Ford deliver all the game-changing calls, and they do an excellent job there on the radio. Remember, we're always positive, always Astros. We want you to become an everydayer and make us your team every single day. Make us your first listen. Thank y'all for tuning in. So let's get into this. So what is the timeline that Dana Brown has said, okay, this is where we're looking. This is kind of like, I hate to use the word red line because, good Lord, the word red line has been overused and it's a political term and whatever. So here's what Dana Brown said. Ultimately, we need to cut this lead in half by the end of July. Then I, Dana Brown, can see this club getting on a roll. We have to cut it in half by the end of July. We have to. He said we have to, like, emphatically. So I'm gonna leave that up there. By the end of July, that means that you have to get to 500. Okay. And that means that when you win, Seattle has to lose. Half the time, if you win and they win, and then if you win and they lose, you can gain ground pretty quickly. It is 9 games. Currently, as I'm giving this breakdown of this conversation, it doesn't make me feel good. Now, this is why he's saying this, okay? This is why he's saying this, because from this, Sean Salisbury asked him, do you think you guys are a playoff contender? Are you happy with where you guys are? And he said, right now, with where the club is, yes, I'm happy with where we are. I really think that with the team we have, we can get to the postseason. Why? Right here. He's counting on Garcia and McCullers that have postseason experience. They're veterans coming back. That'll be huge for us. So Brown is confident that getting Garcia and McCullers back before the trade deadline will be something that puts them squarely in the crosshairs of making it to the playoffs. Again, he said this, the sense of urgency is there, but we have to get on these rolls that I keep talking about. Well, Is he waiting for Garcia and McCullers to come back to get on that roll? And then when they were asked, hey, trade deadline, what are you going to go get? Are you going to go trade for anybody? He goes, if it makes sense to go get a starter, then we'll do it. If it makes sense to add a big bat in the middle of our order, we'll do it. But as is with Garcia and McCullers coming back. He goes, basically, if we get Garcia back, that's like a trade. So he's equating Garcia with a solid option at starter. Look, no disrespect to Garcia. We know what Garcia can do. When Luis Garcia is healthy and right, he is a really good starting pitcher. Lance McCullers, I have no idea what I'm going to get with Lance McCullers. They better not insert him as a starter. Every time he's a starter, what happens, folks? He gets injured. Where was his greatest success? Or what was he he was most famous for throwing the curveballs. Then he came in relief. Okay. He needs to be a reliever, period, in the story. But they have until late July to get to 500. And to me, this is my comment. The end of July hardly sounds urgent on June 19th. So give us 40 days on the calendar to look and evaluate. And if at the end of those 40 days, we are at 500, then yes, early July. And then what was funny was he said late July, early August. So I'm going to ask you, because this is pre-recorded, so you can't respond to me right here, but I want you to type in the comments as you're watching. Do you think this team is a playoff team? If so, what gives you that pause? What gives you the reasoning for you thinking that? I think if you go on sheer experience, you can get everybody healthy, get Verlander off the IL, get Tucker off the IL. And he did say that Kyle Tucker's injury is lasting longer than they anticipated. There is no bone damage. There is no bone, like he didn't break his leg, but he darn well might as well have broken his leg. I chronicled on a show before that Brian McTaggart even talked about his knee. He had a bump under his knee and his foot was swollen. And right now he's still walking around. He's not really walking fully. He's kind of limping. So we've got all these things happening. So I'm going to wrap this up with this. Do I think the Astros are a playoff team? Yes. But if they can get healthy, they can stop losing one-run games, and they can make sure they don't put too much on Ronel Blanco and Hunter Brown. Can Nick Hernandez come in and be that guy? Can Contreras come in and be that guy? Will Henley come up? Will they take Jake Bloss and jettison him to the major leagues? I mean, what are they going to do to sustain their pitching staff and get through these injuries? Oh, and also, what are they going to do about the guys that aren't hitting? The Chas McCormicks, guys like that. Dubon's been performing pretty well this year, but hasn't gotten a ton of playing time like he probably should, hitting .301. So do I believe that they are on their way to the playoffs? I'm not super confident right now, but I'm not giving up on this team. I wanted to break in. And again, I really hope that you go to Sports Talk 790, get the iHeartRadio app, go check out Sports Talk 790, look for the Sean Salisbury show, listen to the interview from Dana Brown. It's about 16 minutes long. And let me know what you think. Listen to my words, listen to what Dana Brown says, and see if I accurately depicted what Dana said. I'm here to make sure that you guys hear all this, because I don't know who, maybe some of y'all aren't in Houston. Maybe of course you have iHeartRadio. You can listen to the radio anywhere now. This is 2024, Brett. Come on. But seriously, I just wanted to come in, talk to y'all guys and girls about this. My reaction. I think the Astros can be a playoff team, but I think that the hill is a lot steeper than it could be. So thank you all for tuning in to Locked On Astros. Again, I'm Htown Wheelhouse. This is a special edition of Locked On Astros. My reaction to Dana Brown's interview with John Salisbury on the John Salisbury Show. For myself, from Eric Huysman, and everybody at Locked On Astros, remember, your team every single day. Don't worry, fam. I'm not giving up. Not giving up.